If you've been successful at anything in life, you know that it really just comes down from doing the basics, doing them well, and doing them over a long period of time and being consistent with it. So that being said, here's my 3-day routine of how I can build an aesthetic physique without living like or training like a bodybuilder. My name is Brandon Scheller. I'm an ISSA certified personal trainer. I'm the founder of the Underdog Improvement Club, a place dedicated to helping others strive for a full life. To me, being healthy and having a full life means having a really cool aesthetic physique and then doing really cool things with it. To build an aesthetic physique, the way I define that is low percent body fat and the developing muscle in the right areas. For me, that's going to be big shoulders, a nice defined chest, a thick back, and then proportioned legs. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm not worried about being the perfect, most optimal bodybuilder, and so this program is not to become the perfect, most optimal bodybuilder, but it will help you build an aesthetic physique, again, if you are consistent over time, nailing the basics. If you follow it and you really understand the basic training principles, and you can apply those to whatever exercises or training practices that you're doing, you will build muscle and you will be able to develop a cool physique. First up is the underlying principle for almost any training program trying to help you build muscle: progressive overload. Simply put, muscle is a byproduct of strength, and so if you try to get stronger week after week, you will build muscle. Now, you can train intensely and you can train hard in the gym, and that's really important, but you also have to train smart so that you can actively know and measure how stronger you are getting week after week. The way that plays out is with progressive overload. This could be as simple as 1 more rep with the same weight you did last week. This could be doing 5 more pounds, the same reps than you did last week as well. It could also simply be doing the same amount of work but in less amount of time, or it could be doing more work, an extra set, something along that line. So with that main underlying principle understood, here's the 3 training styles that I really like to incorporate that help me train smart. Reverse pyramid training. Essentially what this does is it helps me train intensely every set, but still allows me to get close to failure while doing so. To use this training style, what you do is you do about 1 or 2 warm-up sets until you can get to your working set weight. That's going to be your heaviest set first, whatever rep range you're going to do. Most commonly for me, whenever I'm doing my compound lifts first, it's going to be about 5 to 6 reps. And then for the 3 sets for that exercise, you're going to drop the weight 10% each set, but then go for about 1 or 2 more reps in that next set. This reverse pyramid training contrasts something like a 5x5 program or a standard pyramid training style where you just work up and do a little bit more weight as you get to your top set and then you're done. For me, I like to do my heaviest set first, I feel my best, and that way I can give it my most, drop the weight a little bit, and still give it my all. Next up is linear progression, and this is going to be more of that standard using the same weight for the same rep ranges that you're aiming for. So I like to use linear progression when it's not just purely about strength anymore. So for me, there's some movements which I like to have a secondary benefit of, yes, strength applied over a certain time, so power, production, athleticism, some other mastery of a certain skill. In this workout program, you'll see it for Pendlay Rows or some other leg exercises in which I just really want to focus on mastering a skill and being able to be in control, pain-free in a specific movement. The last training style is Myo-Rep training. It's got a fancy word, but really all it means is you do 1 activation set and then you only rest about 10-15 seconds, and then you do a mini set, you rest 10-15 seconds, do another mini set, and then rest 10-15 seconds and do 1 last mini set. Sometimes you can do up to 3 to 4 mini sets, but really it's just about you do an activation set, rest very little amount of time in between, and then do another sort of mini set. This style of training is a great way to do a lot of work in a small amount of time. You really be efficient with what you're doing in the gym, and then also still being able to get some really good hypertrophy and volume in. So if you understand all these training styles and you most importantly stick to progressive overload and actively trying to do more than you did last week, get stronger week after week, you will build muscle. So now here's the breakdown of what each day looks like for my 3-day routine. Before you start any resistance training workout, you really need to focus on getting a good general warm-up before you begin. It could be as simple about 5 to 10 minutes on a treadmill and just getting some good blood flow and then doing some dynamic stretching, or to really just make sure that nothing is feeling like it's injured, and while also still letting yourself go through a different range of motion and kind of warm up those tendons and ligaments. And again, as I mentioned briefly before, you're going to do warm-up sets before you do your training sets. So you have a warm-up weight and you have a training weight. There's no definitive point in which you truly can feel like you are 100% perfectly warmed up. It's mainly just to make sure you get to a certain point in which you're ready to give it all for that first training set. So for specific exercises, I will do at least 2 warm-up sets where I'll do the first one at 50% of my training weight, and I'll go for about 5 to 6 reps, and then I'll do a second warm-up set of about 75% of what my training weight is, and I'll go again for just about 5 to 6 reps. Taking those very serious, really nice in control. I want to feel confident, strong, and I want to feel, again, in control of those. What does it feel like to be injured? If you feel any sort of sharp shooting pain, that is when a clear sign of, okay, you should not push through this, you should stop, you should at least go through, do a little bit more dynamic stretching, just see what it is. If it truly is feel like that, consult a professional, some other personal trainer in the gym, or go to a doctor if it really is causing you that much pain. Now, if it isn't sharp shooting pain or other some sort of severe injury, sometimes the muscle might just feel really tight. If you use a foam roller, go through some more dynamic stretching, some sort of massage, any sort of way you can release that tension, it can help you push through it. But sometimes your body is just a little bit more tight. Naturally, my right side of my body is a little bit more tight. I have a little bit of scoliosis, and so that's just kind of a genetic structural thing that I have to think about. And it's not necessarily a problem, it just is the way it is. That's something I need to think about. Now let's jump into upper body day 1. I like to start off with some sort of incline pressing movement, and so with this program I wrote down incline dumbbell press. I think that's great, a little bit more easy for beginners to do, especially if you are more advanced in incline barbell press. I think is more fun, but they are both great movements, and if I ever plateau on one, instead of pushing through that plateau, I literally just swap from an incline barbell to an incline dumbbell like I have in this program right here. All you're going to worry about is 3 training sets. Again, do your first 1 to 2 warm-up sets, and if this is your first workout, that day 1 is literally just about figuring out what weight you should use, and then week 2 is about pushing that weight and progressing and get stronger from there. Once you figure out what training weight you are going to use, you're going to aim for 6 to 7 reps on that first set. You should be hitting somewhat of a momentary muscular failure on that first set. This video overlaid is what that kind of looks like, in which technique really starts to break down, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to get through and do one more push portion of that exercise. For the incline dumbbell press, or like the standing barbell press in the video, is when you can't push the weight up anymore. That is when you hit momentary muscular failure with good technique. So that first set, 6 to 7 reps, that weight should be challenging enough to where you can shoot for 6 reps, and then next week you're gonna aim for 7 reps. But for the second and third set, you're gonna drop the weight 10% each set, and then you have that rep range. Again, that second set is gonna be 7 to 8 reps, and that third set is gonna be 8 to 10 reps. Now the goal here is to figure out the training weight you're going to use for each 3 sets, right? But what you're going to do is focus on, okay, can I get 7 reps with this weight? Can I get 8 reps in the second set with this weight? And then can I get 10 reps for the third set in that weight? And then next week, that's when you can start to increase the weight. You want to aim for the end of the rep ranges for each of these sets, and then progress and do more weight next week and aim for the lower end of the rep range. Stick with that weight again until you get the end of the rep range, and then hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down. You're going to increase the weight once you can again get to the end of that rep range. Really detailed in text in the PDF. Check that out if you're still confused on this. So after the incline pressing movement, I really like to incorporate some sort of body weight pushing movement as well. When you're able to work up to a 1-arm push-up, that's just sick. An average person won't understand what a 315 bench is like, but if they see someone doing a 1-arm push-up with a cool physique, that is lights out right there. That's how you really understand. That's how you can have a wow effect without having to be just in the gym and just appealing to other people in the gym. So with dips or push-ups, you're aiming for reverse pyramid training as well, so you can do your heaviest set or most difficult variation of the technique of a push-up, whether that be feet elevated, a 1-arm push-up, eventually progressing to being able to do dips, and then weighted dips with a chain instead of adding weight, or like with a dumbbell by your feet. That way you can still progress and do more weight and become stronger in this movement pattern specifically. Once you can get 8 reps in both of those sets, increase the weight, but then that last third set is just going to be doing a body weight variation to failure. When doing a body weight variation to failure, it's a great way to really mentally challenge yourself and really understand what failure really is, because I think people often stop short of what their failure point actually is. When it's just body weight exercises, you can risk failure a little bit more safely than you can with, say, a free weight, because you don't have to worry about dropping the weight on you. If it's just body weight and you're doing a push-up, you can just lay on the ground when you're done. After push-up, it's going to be Pendlay Rows. These are great for athleticism and being able to develop explosive rowing movements. So that way you can just pull straight off the ground, set the weight down in between each rep, pull again. Using linear progression for this, so do the same weight for each 3 sets. Once you can confidently hit the end of the rep range for all 3 sets with that same weight, then increase the weight again. After rows, we have 2 isolation exercises to end the first upper body day workout. First is going to be a seated dumbbell hammer curl, or you can do a hammer rope curl. That's a great variation for this as well. And again, similar training style to the Pendlay Rows, using linear progression, so use the same weight for all 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. Once you can get 12 reps with whatever weight you're doing, increase the weight and then aim for 10 reps again for these guys. And lastly is going to be some sort of bent over dumbbell rear delt raise. And with this Myo-Rep training, you use the same weight for all sets. What you're going to do is that first activation set, whatever weight you can do confidently for 12 to 15 reps with good technique, and then set that weight down, rest 10 to 15 seconds, pick that same weight up again, and then go for about 6 to 8 reps, rest 10 to 15 seconds, second mini set, 6 to 8 reps, rest 10 to 15 seconds, third mini set, 6 to 8 reps. And then you're done. That's the last thing you got for upper body day 1. And again, this workout is not for the biggest bodybuilder legs ever. I really just want to focus on athleticism, power production, and just overall strength within my lower body. First up is just general warm-up and dynamic stretching, but then jumping into the first exercise is going to be some sort of pistol squat. And if you can't do pistol squats, some sort of single leg vertical jump variation is still going to be really good for athleticism and not just being strong with your legs, but still being able to be explosive off the ground with them. We have standard linear progression for these, so aiming for 6 to 8 reps, and if you can get to the point in which you can hold dumbbells while doing pistol squats, that's a great way to progress the movement as well. Next up is Nordic Curls. These are a great challenge for anyone, no matter what sort of skill level you're at. If you can't quite do a full Nordic curl just yet, some sort of seated hamstring leg curl will still be really good to have some strong hamstrings. Again, similar to how we did weighted push-ups and dips, what you're going to aim for is 2 first sets. You're going to try and really be strong, you're really confident on those, and then the last set you want to do an easier variation, whether that's just resisting on the way down and then pushing and assisting back up, and doing that as many reps to failure as possible. Next up, we have dumbbell split squats. These are definitely painful if you've ever done them before. We got 3 sets of reverse pyramid training, which you can aim for is 5 to 6 reps, 5 to 6 reps for the second set, and then lastly 6 to 8 reps. And you do want to try and drop the weight a little bit each time, but still feeling really strong and really confident on each of these exercises when you're training just one leg at a time. Also, side note, try to start with whatever weaker leg you feel like you have first. That's a great way to kind of train for imbalances as well. And then last 2 exercises we have is reverse hyperextensions off of a bench to really train your lower back and your glutes a little bit more, or you can do some Supermans just lying on the ground. That's an easier variation to do here. Don't forget though, you are doing that Myo-Rep training, so 1 activation set, rest just a little bit, and then crush out the mini sets with just another little bit rest in between those as well. Last is going to be a seated calf raise, but again, I like doing a seated variation because it does help strengthen your tibialis and soleus. But again, don't forget that Myo-Rep style training, so you're going to do an activation set, rest 10 to 15 seconds, and then 3 mini sets with again just 10 to 15 seconds in between each of those sets. And that's wrap for my lower body day. And again, my goal is to not build the biggest legs ever, but I really do enjoy these workouts because they help me feel strong, feel powerful, and feel athletic with my legs. And lastly, third day out of the routine is going to be similar to that first upper body day, but we're going to focus a little bit more on vertical pressing and vertical pulling movements. Starting off is going to be some sort of vertical pressing movement. In this workout, I have seated Arnold presses. I think these are, again, a great beginner variation, especially if you're doing them without a back support. It really helps you focus on engaging your core and your lower back to stay tight and controlled while you're pressing the weight up and getting strong in that sort of pressing pattern. I do like to swap this out for a standing barbell press like in the video you saw before, or just some other general dumbbell seated shoulder press, or using a machine loaded shoulder press as well. But again, we're using that reverse pyramid style training, so understand what your training weight is, do 2 warm-up sets to build up to that, and then you do a first set 6 to 8 reps. Second one, a little bit different. We're going to do 8 to 10 reps, and then the last set is going to be 10 to 12 reps. There's no clear-cut scientific definition of like why I'm doing slightly different rep ranges for these here, but I think it does just generally help. I personally enjoyed this sort of rep range specifically for any vertical pressing exercises as well. Next up is going to be some sort of weighted chin-up or pull-up. I like using just a neutral grip, so instead of a pull-up with your hands pronated or a chin-up with your hands supinated, splitting the difference in between, you get the best of both, I think. But again, reverse pyramid style training, so we're going to use the most weight. We're going to work up to our training weight for that first set, 4 to 8 reps, drop the weight about 10%, and then the second set, 4 to 8 reps, and then doing a complete body weight variation or an easier technique variation of like an Australian row, an inverted body weight row is what those can be called as well, and then trying to get as many reps as possible with that easier variation. Next up, after weighted chin-ups or pull-ups, what I like to do is another back exercise, and this is going to be a chest-supported row. You can do these with dumbbells on an incline bench where you're laying down on the bench, or you can do some sort of weighted machine, or sometimes I will change it up. I'll do like a single-arm dumbbell row, and instead of being a chest-supported, I'll use, as you can see in the video right now. And for this one, standard linear progression, so I'll use the same weight and just going for about 10 to 12 reps for 3 sets. Again, I'll only increase the weight until I get 12 reps for all 3 sets with that weight. Then lastly, we have 2 isolation exercises. First up is going to be a dumbbell or a barbell Skullcrusher. And you aren't going to be using the Myo-Rep training for this one, so just linear progression as well. 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps again. You use that same weight, again, all 12 reps. Increase the weight once you can get all 12 reps for all 3 sets. Do know I do like to use an incline with these. It just helps me get into better position to really train my triceps rather than just a flat bench. And then lastly is going to be some sort of dumbbell lateral raise. Now, technique with lateral raises is actually really difficult to get down if you're completely new, so don't beat yourself up if you don't get it down first try. But again, the more you do it, the more you practice it, the better you can get at the skill of doing this exercise. Don't forget though, it is that Myo-Rep style training, so you're going to do an activation set and then just the brief rest in between with the 3 mini sets as well. And that's a wrap. So I do this type of training for the last 2 to 3, 4 years now, and there was a gap in between which I did try like a typical bodybuilder bro split, and I just genuinely never felt like I enjoyed it. But I did it, and I found some good results with it, but it wasn't what I enjoyed. And so I realistically couldn't tell myself or admit to myself that, oh, I could do this for the rest of my life. Training just 3 days a week like this, I can realistically admit to myself, I can train like this the rest of my life if I really wanted to, and I really wanted to stick with it if this is something I really still valued. I can really see myself still saying that 20 years from now, probably. I just really enjoy having an aesthetic physique and building muscle and training the gym. It's a great way to really just push yourself and really understand what your limits are, and which can transfer to so many other practices in life. If you can confidently know that you can change the way your body looks, I think it's much easier to know you can change the way you think. And when you can combine the two, then you can really create the life of however you want to live. So again, if you have any other questions, feel free to look at the free PDF down below breaking down all this with instructions and details more in there. But do leave a comment with a question down below. I'll reply to as many as I can. Other than that, thanks for your interest, thanks for your patience for this video, and I will talk to you all later. Shout out my man Drew Droider, if you know who that is. He's a really cool guy, but we're gonna do a post-vid video. So if you stick around to this point, you're actually a really small percentage of the people watching the video. I really appreciate you guys sticking around. Whoever, if you're listening to this right now, if you just have this in the background, you know, I appreciate the hell out of you. You are the reason in which I can find success today on YouTube, and I think you guys are the really main drivers of where I can find and connect with the people most. I thought it was really cool. The last video that blew up, it's around 200,000 views now. So I know not all of those people are going to be watching this video, but what I thought was really sick is there's a pinned comment on the other video where it said like some guy's like, oh, you just use steroids and you get big, and Mike Benzer, he just used steroids, that's why he was big and stuff like that. You look small. He'd like, I pinned that comment. I replied, of course, but so many of you guys replied backing me up. I appreciate that so much. I think that's amazing. We're going to keep that going. And again, if you guys have any other questions, any other recommendations for other videos to come, I will for sure be pushing more videos that I'm just genuinely interested in. But if you have any other things that you think you maybe want to hear my perspective on, feel free to comment down below. I'll give a reply and I'll start posting a lot more. I'll catch you in the comments down below. Other than that, have a fine ass day. I'll catch you later.